everybody. This is Jennifer Rose, and this is our conversation on A Course in Miracles. I am here with Mary Barbara. And Mary Barbara, hi, Mary Barbara. She has been teaching and she's been facilitating Course in Miracle groups since the 80s. And I have been working with Mary Barbara since the 90s. And it seems so long ago. And I am now assisting her in co-facilitating our own groups that we have. And I also spend a lot of time as a meditation mentor and teaching yoga. So these are our street creds. These are, and oh yeah, I forgot. I also wanted to remind everyone, and I'm going to put it in the show notes, that you have a book on Amazon, A Path to Peace.
Yes.
Which is a complement of A Course in Miracles.
Right.
Yeah. Would you call it a complement?
Yeah, I would call it that. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a little more in depth. It's commentary on the lessons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the best way. Yeah.
Yeah. And that is on Amazon, and I will put the link to it in our comments. And also in the comments, I also put like a little more information about a little bit about like what we're talking about, and how to reach out to us, because we do have that. For now, we're running that online Zoom Course in Miracles group. Yeah.
And so everyone's welcome.
Exactly. So I'll have that contact info. So I know exactly what I want to talk about today with you, Mary Barbara, and I know that you've gotten kind of like a little bit of a preview. We're going to be talking about feelings, emotions. So, Mary Barbara and I, since we've known each other for such a long time, she knows that I'm a very passionate person. I'm very fiery. I'm very Scorpio. I feel very deeply. Sometimes I feel so deeply that I'm just like, I am going to die from this emotion. I know that I'm going to die. Like that's how intense it feels to me. And also it feels, when I'm feeling strong emotions, it feels so real. It feels like I am the emotion. It feels like I am the anger or the grief or the joy or the passion. And I wanted you to explain a little bit, because you've explained it to me several times, about how emotions, like how do we have emotions? Like what's the deal with emotions? Like what comes first, the emotion or the thought or the emotion?
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. First of all, what comes to me is feelings and emotions are two different things.
Okay.
Emotions are energy in motion, emotion. And that energy comes from your mind. Whatever you're thinking, it causes a disturbance in your aura or in your solar plexus or wherever. You think a certain thing and it's connected to something in your past, and you get an emotion. Now, the Course says there's only two emotions, love and fear. There's only two emotions in the whole world. All those things that people are fighting wars about and getting divorces about and all that, the thing is love and fear. But what we call it feelings, because we feel it in the body. And the ego, the body is the ego's proof that the ego is real. The body is the ego's its battlegrounds. So if you didn't feel the emotion of fear in your body, if you didn't feel it, you wouldn't be afraid, right? You'd have a fear thought, just weep by. So we have them. We have a lot of fear thoughts, and they just go past. But it's when it hits something from our past, there's a thought that we've thought, and it hits some feeling in us from our past, that then we call that a feeling, and we really call it emotion. And I don't mind using that word, but I just was thinking when we started, emotion and feeling to me are two different things, according to the Course.
Right.
Because emotions are only love and fear. And when we're having those feelings, it doesn't feel like fear. It doesn't feel like fear. It feels like whatever it feels like, anger or greed or betrayal or whatever name we give it. We don't give it the name fear.
Right.
If, however, we did go back and call it fear, we would get out of it a lot quicker. But once we call it feelings, it feels like that's like our creation. this is how I am. I have feelings about this, and
Mm-hmm.
I am my feelings, and I can't help it. I'm a Pisces. I feel rejected. You know what I mean? There's a story, a
Mm-hmm.
whole story. But if we went back to calling it love and fear, we would look at it. We would look, because fear has two parts: fear of loss and fear of retaliation. And love has two parts: peace and joy. So
Mm-hmm.
if we were really feeling the feeling and then wanted to really say, okay, but this is really fear. So am I feeling fear of loss or fear of retaliation? What am I feeling? And then when you realize what it is, you give it back to Holy Spirit. Holy Spirit, I invite you in. But once we let it get to be our feelings, I like to call it like our baby. You know how I talk about that in the
Yeah.
group? Like the mind is the mental, I mean, the masculine in women and men, and the is the feminine. So when the feminine and masculine come together, they have a baby called feelings. And it could be emotional feelings, it could be physical feelings. Okay. It's just the body is involved. The body's involved. So feelings kind of go back to saying your body, you're a body, you're a body, you're a body, you're a body. And the ego is very protective of us not knowing that. That's huge to the ego that we don't realize that.
So once once I have an emotion and I call it a feeling, like because I have this emotion wheel that has like it has like at least 100 emotions: grief, despair, hope, joy, anxiety, despondency, feelings of joy, and then they break out joyfulness has like all these different like subcategories. Like once I take the emotion and I put the label of a feeling, that's when I start the story about the emotion.
Yeah.
That's
In
like,
quotes, and I don't mean it this way, but that's when we fall in love with our feelings. And we sort of like kind of enjoy the cheap thrill of it. And, you know, it's drama. It's drama. Feelings give you drama. You
mm-hmm,
know, peace is peaceful. It doesn't have a lot of stories with it. It's just peaceful and good. But I'm not saying feelings are bad. I'm not saying
right,
feelings, they're neutral.
right.
Feelings are neutral, just like everything else here in the body and in the world. It's neutral. It's what we think, what we judge of them. But feelings, to me, what's helped me enormously is years ago, I forget what they called this process, but I went to a therapist and he said, okay, so what shape does the feeling have? And is it cold or hot? If it had a color, what color would it be? You know, he started to make it like a thing so that I could see, as you said earlier, that I had it. It didn't have me. But
Oh,
so to have your feelings, but I would look at them that way. I would say, okay, where am I feeling this? Because it's going to teach you that you're outside looking at the feeling. You're not in that feeling like we think we are. We're not lost in it. It's not a vortex that sucks us down.
so we are not. So over and over again, as we have these conversations, it kind of comes back to a lot of the foundation. We're not our thoughts, and we're not our thoughts about our feelings.
Right, right.
And we have a thought. Okay, so I'm kind of like going back to the origin story
Okay,
of the emotion. We have a thought, and from that thought, we either have a feeling of love or fear. And then we start telling ourselves stories about the emotion of love or fear. And it's from those stories that we start to have feelings. Feelings.
exactly.
Did I get it
Yeah,
right? And
yeah,
then from the feelings, whatever feelings we have, we start to tell ourselves a story.
yeah. And we think that story is us. You know what
Okay.
I mean? This is just who I am. This blah 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 blah. You know, we'd say the feelings are us because we're making it up. It's our creation, just like well, it's not called creation in this course. It's called you made it up. What you
Right.
made is in the illusion, and
Right.
what you create is what we co-create with God. And with the love, we're co-creating with God. And notice that
Mm-hmm.
we don't put drama with it. We don't put anything. It's sort of peaceful. You're feeling love. And I usually get into such gratitude when I feel that love, and there's no story with it. I'm in love with this person or anything. It's just a beingness of love. Love has no, to me, no story, real love. I mean, I could start thinking how I love the baby or something, but I don't need to. But the fear has to have a story. It has to have a story to support it. Otherwise, it goes to nothing. If we don't pay attention to something and give it the power of our energy, our thoughts, it has to disappear. It goes back to the nothingness from which it came.
So let's talk. So I was specifically reading in the course about anger. And
Mhm.
in the chapter, I believe it's chapter 6, it talks about anger isn't justified. So
Mhm.
anger is an emotion, it's a feeling. And when I used to read that, it's not justified, I always thought that meant that I wasn't supposed to have that feeling of anger. I wasn't supposed to have that. And really, now as I started to look at it again and read it again with different eyes, and I do invite my higher self to read the material with me and to interpret the material. I just got this I just got this feeling, I got this knowing, I'm going to call it a knowing, that there's nothing, it's not saying don't have anger. It's not saying anything's wrong with
Mhm.
anger. It's just don't justify it. Like if
Mhm.
someone cuts me off in traffic, like flash, anger,
Mhm.
story about that person, about how they're a jerk and about how they're, I don't know,
Mhm.
they're idiots, then guilt. This is how, then guilt because I shouldn't call that person a jerk. I
Mhm.
shouldn't be angry. Then repression because I'm like pushing down my anger. Then go home and get mad at my husband because I've like smashed down all this anger.
Right.
When if I could have just like person cuts me off at in traffic, get angry, don't tell myself a story, let the energy move through me because
Yeah.
it's energy and emotion, then it's just like you said, it's like nothingness.
Yeah. It's nothingness. I mean, it's just there's a flash of thought that makes us angry about the car cutting us off. Okay, there is a flash, but it says in another place in the course, it says it's talking about sickness, but it says we're not just talking about sickness, we're talking about depression, anger, anxiety, blah, blah, everything.
Mm-hmm.
And it says it's a magic wand you wave when truth comes too close. Like, so if you're doing a lot of good spiritual work and then you go out and drive and you get angry, it's a magic wand you've waved so that truth doesn't come too close. It's like, oh, see, I'm still get angry. I still get angry. It's like it seems to cut off your path to God, but it doesn't if you don't judge it. But
Right.
justified, because it's saying if you can justify anger, you're taking away the power of your mind. You're saying a car out there with a person in it can take away your peace. It
Mm-hmm.
takes away your power to say
Mm-hmm.
that's what's doing it. No, if
Mm-hmm.
you could say, I know I'm angry because my thoughts about that jerk. You know what I mean? And just let it be. Just say, see, I could still be angry. I guess I could still be angry.
Yeah. And then do you like, so I've worked with a lot of ways of just like staying with my feelings and not judging myself. And it takes a lot of practice to do that. I have found that
Mm-hmm.
it is not an easy practice when I've
Mm-hmm.
been trained by the world to make someone else to blame for
Yeah.
my feelings.
Mm-hmm. And the world is supported by that. Everything is supporting that. The songs, the books, everything. You made me do it. You made me do it. It
Yeah.
wasn't me, it was you
Yeah.
made me do it. And as we said, it's never justified, but it doesn't mean that it doesn't happen. And if it does happen, the quote that I use a lot, and I maybe have mentioned this before in our conversations, but I love this. The Holy Spirit is not delayed by our mistakes. It's not delayed by your
Right.
anger. It's delayed by your unwillingness to let go of thinking about it. the quote is, the Holy Spirit is not delayed by your mistakes, but it is delayed by your unwillingness to let it go. So I'm going to put it in anger terms. The Holy Spirit is not delayed by your anger. It's delayed by your unwillingness to let your thoughts about that go. Because nobody can, usurp your power of thinking.
That's so interesting. So my willingness to let my thoughts go, my willingness to
To
not
be
make up a
angry.
story
Yeah,
or to go on, I'm sorry.
just to be angry. So it's just sensations in your body, really.
Okay.
And it's ego. The ego uses the body. So, boy, isn't that interesting how I still can do anger? I've done that. Like, I thought I covered all that about people cutting me off and everything. Then all of a sudden I'm like mad again, you know? And for me, it's really not, I'm not upset about that. Just like you said, you went home and, kicked the dog, God forbid, but,
Right.
argued with your husband. Um, we're never upset for the reason we think. So to me, people get angry, or we all get angry to prove we're a body. To say, see, I'm still a body.
Yeah.
It's in my body and I still get this. We could keep bringing it back to the mind. Everything brought back to the mind of fear of loss, fear of retaliation. If you want
Yep.
to do some writing on that and list all those emotions that you have on that chart, and put fear, put fear of loss, fear of retaliation, the two parts of fear, and watch, you could list them. And instead of breaking them up into smattering, like breaking a mirror into a million pieces, just bop it, and it's just that, and you put it back together. It really helps me to say this is fear, because there's something in us that we don't want to be called cowards, we don't want to be
Yeah.
fearful and all that. So we give it something else, something elegant like jealousy, or greed.
Right. Right.
Not,
Avarice, whatever
yeah,
that
not,
is.
I'm afraid, I'm afraid, I'm
Yeah.
afraid. We don't like that. So
That's
that's
so funny. So is it possible to feel the feeling that comes up and know that it's just fear
mhm.
and just be with yourself?
Yeah. I would suggest feel the feeling and then say, Holy Spirit, I invite you into whatever thought is bringing this to me,
Okay.
because we've been taught to be annoyed when we're driving.
Yeah.
People cutting us off and everything. And I remember years ago when I was doing the course, we used to say, you're never upset for the reason you think. And I used to say, except when you're driving, then you're really upset because the person cut you off, or the
Right.
person's going too slow, or you're lost or something. But of course, that's not true. But it just gives the power back to the mind. You can still feel it all and everything, but just give the power back to your mind. That's what we're here to do. We're
And to know,
powerful spiritual beings guided by wisdom and love. We're not little wimps that, oh, you scared me.
yeah, that, oh, you cut me off, so now I'm going to convince myself that I'm not powerful or
Yeah,
that oh, there's proof that I am a victim. You
yeah.
know?
See that? That he did that just to me to get me upset.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I used to have a thing in the car, and it was so stupid. I like to let people in, like if somebody's trying to pull in, they're coming on the highway and they have to pull in, or anything like that. And I used to get so annoyed when they didn't go, thank you. They weren't
Uh-huh.
saying it, but they would
Mhm.
do some kind of thank you, put their lights, say, God, didn't even say thank you. I used to beat myself up with that like a nut. Finally, I said, no one ever, 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 ever has to say thank you again. I give the whole world permission never to say thank you again to me when I let them in. And then after that, I don't know if they do or don't. It's not I really, honest to God, don't know if they do or don't, because it's not a
Yeah.
thing. It's not something that I liked pulling in to make myself mad and upset. And God, these people,
Right.
make them
Right.
wrong and I'm right.
Right.
I'm so nice. Here, I let you in and you don't even say thank you.
Well, what I do want to say, so that gives the power back, like you're taking your power back.
Yeah, I finally got, what am I doing? Getting annoyed all the time with these
Yeah.
people. Don't let them in, or be okay. And so then I gave
Yeah.
that permission. Ever, 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 ever. No one ever, ever, ever has to do that.
But here's one thing before we kind of wrap up. I want to talk about like we have been trained, and of course, when I say we, I'm talking about myself and many of my friends that I know who are on the spiritual path. A lot of people that I know study yoga, even us. Even us.
Absolutely.
um,
We're
as a human beings, we've been trained not to feel, to make up the story and make it
yeah,
someone else did it to me. Something else did it to me. I am a victim. So then when I started to sit with my feelings, number one, it felt excruciating. I
yeah,
thought I was going to die because the feelings felt so intense because I hadn't developed a capacity to be with my feelings
exactly. Yes.
without making up a story. And also I had a lot of fear, and I would like you to talk about this, especially with the anger. I had a lot of fear and the crying, that if I let out a little bit of crying, I would never stop.
Yeah, I used
Or
to
if,
have that.
or if I let out a little bit of my anger, I would like destroy anything in my path. Like I would just
Hmm.
lay anything in my path to waste. It felt that strong and dangerous. It
Hmm.
felt dangerous to feel my feelings. And I would like you to just talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I used to have the thing about crying. Start crying, I'll never stop
Yeah.
because I was not a crier. We weren't criers in our family. I won't go into details, but we weren't supposed to cry. So um, that's what I really thought. And recently, my dog had to be put to sleep, and I started crying. I cried for like a week and a half, and I said, "See, I was right. I'm never going to stop." But when I got sane again, I realized everything has a crescendo, like that
Yeah.
anger. It can't maintain itself at that level of destroying everything unless you have mental issues, you know what I mean?
Right.
But it has a crescendo and then it immediately starts to dwindle. So that's what I noticed about everything. Like even when I started crying recently and I realized that I cry, 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 cry. And then all of a sudden I'm not really crying, then oh, a little. And then
Uh-huh.
so just know that that's the ego saying that your feelings are dangerous, that your feelings are bigger than God. God
Yeah.
created you a powerful spiritual being, and your feelings are greater than God.
Mm.
It's how to deal with that. I
And
mean,
do you also want to tell, like, I remember you telling the story about the cork in the bottle. Like that
yes,
that was really helpful. Can you tell me about that,
I
please?
love that story, and that's from Raj, some channeled material that I followed. But he said, your anger, he says, like a big jug, and it has a cork in it. And when you're angry, you feel like that whole jug is filled with your anger. And if you ever let it out, it would destroy everything. It would just be like a tsunami. He said, but I assure you, the only thing that's anger is the cork.
Mm-hmm.
That's the anger. And you take that cork out, and what comes out is love. And
Yeah.
I thought that was so fabulous
Yeah.
because when you're having that tremendously intense feeling, like you said, of anger or whatever, it feels like that whole jug is filled with it. When if we could just picture this is an intense putting together of all those feelings so intensely, and all I have to do is get that out.
Yeah.
It's not the whole bottle, it's not the whole bottle.
And
Anything really intense is the ego. Do you know what I mean? The Holy Spirit is very gentle, very quiet, very peaceful.
yeah, it's that feeling of contentment.
Yes,
There's
the
that feeling.
gratitude. Oh,
Yeah.
that's what I've been feeling lately, such gratitude.
It's it feels to me, that's my language. I talk a lot
Yeah,
about
well,
I'm
that's
feeling.
that's that's a language.
When I take out the cork, when I'm willing to know that when I'm willing to be with myself and take the cork out and feel my feelings, and I get to the inside of the jug, that's where that gratitude comes in, of just gratitude for myself, for my
Yes.
willingness to be with myself and not reject myself or orphan myself or judge myself again because I'm having this experience, this emotional experience. And then when I get into that jug as the cork is let
Yeah.
off, then I can feel that feeling of like, oh, it really wasn't me. It really does
Yeah.
pass. It really isn't about the story that I told myself. It was just about letting the emotions flow through me.
Yeah.
And there's me on the other side.
Yeah. Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. As an angel. You know how I like to
Yes.
talk about us as earth angels, as the angel part of you is there. And the thing about anger, anyway, for me, and I maybe for everybody, but somebody has to be wrong. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Somebody has to be wrong, done me wrong, or something wrong. And I'm right. I'm so
Yeah.
innocent and I'm right. And that's just perception. You know, that's just perception.
Yeah.
Perception of what they say, I say, they say.
The
So
story.
when you get that, you know, that somebody has to be wrong, it's not the Holy Spirit.
Okay.
It has to be the ego.
And it can go the other way too, because like I'm an internalizer. Oh, I was so dumb. Oh my God, I was
Yes,
so wrong.
wrong.
I made a mistake. I can't believe I made a mistake. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I was wrong.
Oh, yeah. So that's another little trick.
Yeah,
Trick of the ego,
yeah, yeah,
you
yeah.
know? And so just know it's ego. It's just lies, lies, lies.
It's just fear or love. That's it.
That's it. That's only two emotions. And
Yeah,
emotion is energy in motion.
yeah.
So our natural energy is the love.
Mm-hmm.
And then when we add all our interpretations, then we have an offshoot called fear. And with that comes any emotion, any feeling you could say. Now, when we talk also about feelings, there's also that intuitive feeling. You know,
Mm-hmm.
that word is used differently. Feelings as emotions or feeling as like intuition, like the gut feeling,
Yeah.
you know, and that's that feeling. That's God. That's the Holy Spirit. That feeling. But the feeling that upsets us and makes us feel wrong and gets us out of our peace, that's fear.
So from it seems to me like if we can start to become more and more aware of our feelings and more in tune, we can discern is
Yeah.
we start to become more literate in
Hmm.
is this a gut feeling of emotion or is this a gut feeling of fear?
Yeah.
Sometimes I just wait and see. I just
Yes.
feel it in my body and I'm just like what am I what's this about? And I just wait.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
with the feelings, for me, if it's a feeling of protection, like a feeling of intuition, like walking the dog, and I saw a car there, and I don't know, I just had a feeling. And so I turned around, walked the dog back home.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't afraid. It was just I was on notice. Don't go there. And
Mm-hmm.
it was a feeling of that. It was like, but I wasn't afraid. Like when you get that intuition and you're afraid, then it's fear.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Because when you get the intuition the other way, you just kind of do what's supposed to be done. You just get away from it or whatever,
Right.
you know?
Without
But
the story.
yeah,
Yeah.
without the story. You
Yeah.
know, but then I started making up a story because maybe that was a drug dealer. Maybe that was somebody kidnapped. You know, of course, as I got in the house, I started making up the story. And then I said,
Oh
or maybe not. You know, maybe it was just a practicing guidance. I don't
yeah.
know.
Yeah.
But I
That's
locked the doors real good.
and then I just want to remind everybody you can also watch our YouTube on guidance, which I'll put the link to that in the comments because that one's really
Okay.
good too.
Yeah.
So, well, this was great. Thanks so much, Mary Barbara. I think we'll
Oh,
wrap
my
it up and
pleasure.
leave
Okay.
it like that. Let's do our
Love
exit.
and yeah, love
Love and
and
peace.
peace.
All right, my
Love and peace, my
friends.
darlings. Thanks, Jennifer Rose.
Okay, thanks,
I
Mary
really
Barbara.
enjoy this.
I
Thank you.
know. Okay, hold
My
on.
soul sister.
Let me
Or my soul.
see.